How about those madrigals? Madrigals. Remember the denim with cells? Remember that? They were great. Okay, next up, we have got an original oratory from one of our DDF high school members. He's been working and crafting this piece all year long and performing it out. So sharing it now with you, please welcome Chisel Trisenberg to the stage, everybody. Big warm welcome up here. Chisel!
All right. Well, before I start, I'd like to first mention a couple things about the nature of this piece because, you know, it's for a competitive sport. So a little bit is different. Normally it would be given directly to a judge who has a piece of paper with a couple different columns on, you know, what the piece should do better, and then its final ranking round. I promise this is all relevant for some meta jokes. All right, I'll begin then. Now, I've got a question for you, as I imagine most of my DEF competitors would too. Have any of you ever gone into your kitchen and gotten a fork, only to realize that you wanted to eat soup instead, or cereal? Well, what if there was a utensil that could combine both a spork, both a spoon, and a fork? Why not a spork? Actually, why do we even have any other utensils at all? Sporks have long been the butt of the many cutlery jokes, but I mean to do them justice. Hi everybody, I'm Chisel Trisenberg, and this is Spork. I guess I'll go straight into my main points about sporks. I mean, everyone here has done an extensive research into the history of the spork, right? Was that not a graduation requirement here? Well, anyways, I guess I'll give you a brief overview. I'll now pass the mic off to Dr. Trisenberg. Now, the spork as we know it today was actually patented in the 70s, the 1870s. But the history of the spork might go back as far as 5000 BCE. Archaeologists have discovered extensive cutlery used in ancient Mesopotamia, which is largely credited as the first major human civilization. They were similar to rudimentary spoons with tines carved at the top. These were the first sporks. It's interesting that what we now call sporks emerged before forks even. Now, sporks continued unofficially until the mid-1800s, when an inventor named Samuel Francis patented an early design for the spork. But it wasn't called that yet. In fact, Francis likely never even heard the modern term for it. That patent has since expired to be replaced with other similar patents. Patents. They're probably all written in Comic Sans, which of course I can say because this speech definitely isn't. Now, the modern term spork was trademarked in 1969 by Brood Milling Co. That trademark has predictably expired, and now sporks are mostly back to the public domain. All right, now Chisel can finally get into his main arguments. Number one, this is the one you were probably expecting. The main reason that sporks were created is roll compression. It's not a particularly common term, so I'll define it for you. According to Chisel Trisenberg, roll compression is when one thing fits into multiple rolls. If you want anyone qualified to define it, then the most commonly accepted definition of roll compression that I could find is this: the ability to perform multiple functions effectively. It originally came from competitive Pokemon games, where having a lot of roll compression in your Pokemon could help cover more of your opponent's options, and, well, I should probably focus on sporks. If you'll indulge me for a moment, think about our metaphorical judge's metaphorical pencil in their hand. Maybe you're wanting to draw something, like a circle around the little 1 in the corner of the ballot. Or erase something, like the entire column labeled needs improvement. Pencils can do both. Pencil erasers have become widespread, and I think that sporks should do the same. They're kind of like pencils with erasers, just for eating food instead of writing a speech about sporks. Definitely wasn't eating while writing that line. If you need another example of roll compression, think about the phone that would theoretically be being used to currently time this speech. The iPhone is a great example of roll compression, as it's much more than just a phone. It can time things, do your math for you, and access the entire internet. Like I said, Sporks too are a perfect example of role compression. I mean, it's their main purpose. Why carry around multiple utensils or have to root through your cutlery drawer when you can just have a couple of sporks? Now, 2, sporks are more cost effective. Having a couple of sporks instead of 27 different utensils including an oyster fork is far easier to finance. You've been stuck under a rock for a while, which we basically are back here in Haines, then cutlery is expensive. If you're drowning under expenses, well, don't be. The average cost of a full set of cutlery is, keep in mind, it's only for one person, about $50, according to Amazon's cheapest option that I still think won't break from a bite of soup. Now, with the rampant inflation and general terrible state of global economics nowadays, $50 is a pretty big deal. I mean, you could get what, a gallon of gas or a dozen eggs for that much? Now imagine only having to pay half that. I'd wager $50 that most people would want to save where they could, so switching to sporks is one way to make a difference. See it this way. Every spoon and fork you replace with a spork is 20 sheets of toilet paper. If you want a less relevant statistic, that's 4 gumballs. I know, the savings, incredible. Now, it might not be much, but I think we can all agree that doing something is better than continuing to buy more cutlery. Now, for my third point, I'd like to give the mic to environmental consultant Trisenberg. Now, making silverware is also quite environmentally detrimental. Mining for the metals required for silverware emits lots of mercury that can have terrible health effects. Think cancer. Mining also lets our harmful sulfide drainage that seeps into water and kills native flora and fauna. The mining industry, according to the United Nations, of course, lets out about 3 gigatons of carbon dioxide. Gigatons! We can cut it in half with sporks. Well, Chisel, why don't you just make utensils out of plastic instead? The average plastic utensil lasts for about 1,000 years before decomposing into harmful microplastics that last for thousands more. If you thought that mining was bad for the environment, then you don't even want to know how much emissions come from plastic manufacturing. Think about that giant floating blob of trash in the ocean. Yes, the one that covers more than the size of Madagascar now. Now try imagining it half as big. Half. I really wouldn't want to underestimate the impact of having something. Now, the world might seem like it's burning down around us. Well, maybe it's not doing so great. But switching to sporks is one thing that we can do. However little, we can make an impact. Think of sporks like recycling. If everyone does it, then the world will be a better place. Let's start a global hashtag switching to sporks movement. Now, fourthly, of course, spork enthusiast Chisel would like to make the very serious point, as everything else has been so far, that using spoons, forks, and even knives is classist. Think about it. It's only the very rich that can use the aforementioned 27 different utensils, including a salad fork. Have you heard of the ridiculous dining etiquette standards set for some fancy meals? For some, there actually are 27 different utensils. What a waste! Nowadays, cutlery is just a convoluted way of discrimination against the good spork-using people. As an old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So why did we change our utensils to something so far inferior? If you remember in our history lessons, sporks were the original tools of the common people. For too long have spoons and forks had such a large grasp on our upper class. This is clearly a problem that can only be reasonably solved by the rising of the common people to re-educate our upper class on the growing cutlery inequality. Anyways, lastly, the spork's various political opponents might have led you to believe that a spork is just a worse version of the things it's combining. But, as you might have guessed, I'm about to tell you the opposite. If you'll indulge me for a second time, then you'll find that there's not a great disparity between the average fork tine length versus spork tine length. Do you really have trouble eating soup with a spork? No. I eat my cereal in the morning with a spork every time. And look how I turned out. Hard fork extremists have led us to believe that sporks are completely... that sporks are completely ineffective for either of their purposes, but they're not. Spoons and forks don't need to be perfect, but there should definitely be less of them. Yeah, so that's why I think sporks should become more widespread. I mean, they're good enough at what they do, cost-effective, environmentally friendly. Nothing else causes the common people to revolt than the sport inequality conspiracy theory definitely will. And above all else, well, sporks were made to be a perfect example of role compression, and they definitely are. Yeah, you should get one. Or two. Thank you.